Are you tired of being weighed down? Have you fallen asleep on your health? This is your wake up call with my dad, Keith, my husband, Kyle, and me, Ashley.
Good morning, everyone. It is day 107, and it is Tuesday, and this is your wake-up call. Hope everybody is up, bright, and early this morning, alert and awake, ready to take on the day. Got the crew here, and it's Tasty Tuesday, so time for us to talk about, a food item or our favorite meal, or even just what we're eating in general. So, Tasty Tuesday, what is our topic for today?
I thought we could talk about some sources of plant-based protein, because that's always everyone's first concern when they find out that you're not eating meat anymore. They panic a little bit and think that you're not getting enough protein because we've been taught that you get your protein from animal sources, right? So we just talk about some different ways we can get protein in. And I think the most obvious one is beans, right? Beans are a huge source of protein. And it doesn't matter the type of beans, pinto beans, black beans, any kind of beans, huge source of proteins. And I think all of us eat a lot of that throughout the week. So
yeah, everything except jelly beans. Jelly beans don't have a whole lot of protein.
Yeah, so that's sad.
Count those out. So
yeah. Lentils are a source of protein, which I have just recently decided I like lentils. Growing up, they kind of tasted like dirt to me. Same with like black-eyed peas. I always thought kind of tasted like dirt, but like in my ripe old age of 31, I like both of those things now. I like black-eyed peas and I like lentils too. Lentils, though, if you spice them right, they don't have that dirty taste.
Yeah. Well, and soak them and then drain the water off.
Right.
That helps. That helps as well.
It does. It does. Let's see.
And beans are pretty versatile, because even when you think of a lot of the fake meats or mock meats that you get, many of those are formed out of beans as well.
Or like pea protein. Split peas have a lot of protein in them. And there's, beans are versatile anyway, because you can just cook them up and eat them, You can mash them up into like a refried bean type deal and have them on tacos or use them as dip. You can make a bean loaf out of them. You can put them in soups. You can put them in your salad. There's just all sorts of things you can do with beans. And not to mention, all the varieties of beans there are. My favorite way to eat beans is put them in the pressure cooker, but I like half pinto beans and half white beans. I really like the texture of both of those put together for some reason.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, the white beans get everything all smooth and creamy.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah, I like that. Another huge source is chickpeas. This is another type of bean, essentially. I have a love-hate relationship with those. Like, I like them in hummus, but I've not liked them on their own or with anything else so far. And I think it's because they're so hard and crunchy, and they require a lot of cooking. And I've actually got a bag of like dried chickpeas that I've not tried to cook yet. I've only ever gotten them out of the can. So I'm thinking maybe if I cook some myself, they might be more tolerable. I don't know.
Yeah.
But a lot of vegan people, if you go on YouTube and you look up recipes and stuff, they are all about the chickpeas, and I'm just not there. I'm not with it on the chickpea train right now.
Well, and one of the things that I've learned recently is that you've got to take the skins off. You
Yeah.
got to soak them, and then you got to take the skins off.
Which is a lot of work.
Especially if you're eating something like hummus,
Right.
which you can make it really smooth all the way through.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about this on the podcast before, but chia seeds are a huge source of protein. Any kind of nuts are a good source of protein. They're also a big source of fat, too, so you don't want to go overboard on nuts, but I like to sprinkle them like on my oatmeal or on my salads or, just eat them as a snack sometimes. But here's something a little surprising, like certain grains like quinoa and oats and like wild rice, those are all also sources of protein. And they're also a carb. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of times, we think about carbs, especially like wild rice, and we think, oh, that's not good for you. That has no nutrition. Well, that's not true. I think any kind of rice that's still the whole grain, like a brown rice or a wild rice or anything but white rice, still has that sheath on it or whatever it's called,
Mm,
and that's a source of protein, and it's a source of fiber too.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you combine uh, any kind of bean, usually with rice,
Hmm.
you've got a complete profile of amino acids.
Right.
If you're really concerned about protein or whatever,
Yeah.
you cannot go wrong with beans and rice.
That's definitely a staple around here.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like oatmeal. I love oatmeal, and I haven't been eating breakfast for a few months now, but sometimes I'll eat it for lunch with some fruit and some nuts, or I've always been a fan of oatmeal. Now it's been hard letting go of the butter and sugar out of my oatmeal. I still dream of that. Sometimes I'm making my
Mm,
oatmeal and I'm like, man, I got this sugar right here. I've got some fake butter in the fridge. That would be so good. But I've started to enjoy oatmeal just sweetened with fruit. The other day, I had some frozen blueberries, and so as my oatmeal was cooking, I just poured a bunch of the blueberries in it and cooked the blueberries like in the oatmeal, and it sweetened it a lot. It was really good, and I didn't add any extra sugar or anything, and it turned my oatmeal like this pretty purple color.
Mm.
It was good though, and I've seen people do
sounds
that
good.
before, but I've never tried it. I've seen people do it with strawberries or any kind of like frozen fruit. They'll just dump it in during the cooking process, and it sweetens up the oatmeal. So that was pretty good. But yeah, there's all sources of proteins, and these are just the foods I've mentioned are highly fortified with protein. But you can eat a piece of spinach and it's got a little bit of protein in it. I mean, you can eat
Mm,
all sorts of different vegetables. They have protein. These are just the plant-based sources that really pack a punch. Um, and I've read like infographics and stuff online or like seen on different documentaries that um, most of the time a person like on a normal standard American diet gets way more protein than they would ever need. eating meat, and I don't know the numbers or the percentages, but I've heard that on several occasions. And then I've also heard that most people on a plant-based diet also get more protein than you need. It's important to remember that the the government makes money on meat and cheese, and they want you to eat a lot of it. And just because they're saying your body needs this amount of protein to survive doesn't mean that's actually the truth. So what I recommend is, do your own research. We are blessed to be in a day and age where we can just get online and Google something and find more information than she would ever want or need. And read articles and watch documentaries and find the truth out there, because it's out there. You're just going to have to search through it sometimes, and don't worry about your friends who are worried about you about getting enough protein, because we all know that we're going to be fine. And yeah, just make sure you're eating some beans every now and then. Make sure you got some nuts. Make sure you're eating some whole grains. And of course, the most important thing, I think even more importantly than eating beans, you've got to get in those dark green leafy vegetables,
Yeah.
Those are where your vitamins and those healing properties are going to come from.
Yeah.
So that's all I got for today. And do I have anything else to add? Any other sources of protein you can think of that I didn't mention?
Well, you can really lay it on in one meal. I mean, if you plan it out correctly, you can really stack it up.
Yeah.
Between your beans, your leafy greens, and everything in between.
Get some brown rice action in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people are just afraid you're not going to get enough. No, nobody cares. Nobody cares about how much protein you're getting.
Until you're not eating meat anymore.
Yeah, until they find out you're not eating meat.
Right.
So,
and I think
put it in there.
I think people have this conception that when you're not eating meat, you're just not eating enough food in general. That's not the case at all. I feel like with this type of eating, I can eat more food by like volume than you can on any other type of diet, or because if you're eating low carb, then you've got your piece of meat and that's about it. Well, if I'm eating vegetables, I've got a plate loaded up of vegetables, and there's just so much more you can eat by volume because it doesn't have the calories or the fat that a slab of meat has, or a piece of cheese. I'm probably eating more now than, I know that I'm eating more now than any other kind of diet that I've tried in the past, because you can eat all sorts of vegetables, and number one, it doesn't have the calories or fat, but number two, it takes such a higher volume of vegetables to fill your stomach up. Then I've lost what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is, you can eat a piece of meat for 300 calories, or you can eat
Right.
a boatload of vegetables for the same amount.
Right, you're talking about an ounce. I mean,
You're getting more
300
bang for your
calories.
buck.
Right, like 4 to 6 ounces of animal protein
Right.
versus, the same amount of protein in plants. But you can eat a mountain of plants versus that little tiny piece of animal protein.
Right.
I
Well,
understood what you're saying.
Thanks. It's early and my brain wasn't totally firing. So on that note, I'll go ahead and wrap this up for today. But like I said, do your research. You can find all sorts of things on the internet about nutrition, and do what works for you, and don't worry about what your friends or family are saying. We are going to get the right nutrition. We're going to get enough protein. We aren't going to die. We're eating enough food. It's going to be fine. Y'all have a good Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow with What's That Wednesday. Hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Our Heavy House. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.